The young Metro,
Lillard, long range three.
beautiful morning. Get the sun up,
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Bit of an absence. I know we were gone for a while, but we're now second semester seniors, so we should be able to post more often. But yeah, it's a big episode for us. 2022, 2023 NFL playoff predictions. Will we predict the whole bracket? Me and Casey separately. And then we have a Super Bowl winner at the end. I'm excited for this playoffs, really. It's gonna be a really fun weekend. Games on Sunday and Monday. I'm juiced for the playoffs, man.
Yeah, I think this is definitely an interesting playoffs. I'm very excited for it. We had another solid year of NFL. And I think what makes this playoffs different and more special than other ones is not that it's deep. It's kind of the opposite. We have 5 to 6 really good teams in the NFL, and it's really not as open. So we're going to see here which of these 5 teams are going to make it because it feels more chalky. Maybe that's just what we're getting right now. They could completely surprise us. The Chiefs, Bills, everyone may lose. We will see. But right now, it seems like we have 5 to 6 teams that really have a shot of winning this, and it's going to be so interesting those final 2-3 weekends to see who ends up winning these playoffs. But anything could happen.
Yeah, really anything could happen. But yeah, this is what we think will happen. And so let's just first take a look at the bracket. The 1 seed, 14-3, winners of the AFC West are the Kansas City Chiefs. 2 seed, winners of the AFC East are the Buffalo Bills. 3 seed, winner of the AFC North is the Cincinnati Bengals. And the winner of the AFC South, surprisingly, but Casey predicted it at the beginning of the year, Jacksonville Jaguars get the 4 seed.
Yeah.
So they have to play a team better record-wise, but they get home field advantage with the 5th seed Chargers, 6th seed Ravens, and 7th seed banged up Miami Dolphins. In the NFC, 1 seed Eagles, 2 seed Niners, 3 seed Vikings, 4 seed 8 and 9 losing record, but still get home field advantage, and that's the Buccaneers. 5th seed Cowboys, 6th seed Giants, and 7th seed Seahawks. If you showed me this at the beginning of the year and told me that both the Giants and Seahawks were getting the playoffs, who I thought would be 2 of the worst teams in the NFL this year, I wouldn't believe you. AFC I could have definitely believed, but not the NFC definitely surprised me this year.
Yeah, our predictions, which we did in August, I went 6 for 7 on AFC and 4 for 7, I believe, on NFC. So NFC was obviously a lot more surprising. I think a lot of people had the Rams winning the NFC West.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that low seasons from a lot of people. I mean, no one expected the Seahawks to get the 7, but yeah.
And
Here we
I think
are.
I went 5 and 7 AFC. I think I had the Raiders in, and then I went 4 for 7 as well. NFC. All right. My wild card round. I think this Chargers Jaguars game is actually the toughest to predict in the whole first round. Besides maybe this Vikings game as well. I had the Jaguars initially, but I'm switching back to the Chargers just because I think Mike Williams is going to play. You have Joey Bosa returning, who returned like last week or 2 weeks ago. And although I think Brandon Staley's an idiot for playing his players when they had the 5th seed locked up and just risking injury, and Mike Williams actually did get hurt. I just don't get that move. But yeah, anyway, I just think the Jaguars didn't impress me against the Titans, and the Chargers have a lot more firepower than the Titans do. I'll tell you that much. So I do like the Chargers, but I think it's gonna be a pretty close game. Next, Bengals Ravens. They just played. Bengals won. Lamar Jackson his status is uncertain. Even if he does play, though, I like the Bengals, but I think it's gonna be closer than people think. I think a lot of people think this is gonna be a blowout, but the Ravens play some good defense, man. It's just that offense has been struggling without Lamar Jackson, but even if he does come back, I know he'll still be a bit banged up. Bills, Dolphins, definitely the worst matchup. Overall, it's gonna be the biggest blowout overall. Skylar Thompson starting for the Dolphins, and the Bills are playing really well right now, and I think they win by 20 plus. Moving on to NFC. So the 1 seed is Eagles, and then Cowboys go in to play Tom Brady in Tampa. People are picking the Bucks because it's playoff Brady, and Brady's never lost to um the Cowboys in his career. Dak's not playing well right now. Cowboys just came off a loss. I do think Cowboys are a much better team, though. The Bucks did not impress me at any stage of the season, and I don't think anything's going to change um, come playoff time. I understand they have the greatest of all time behind center, and I understand he performs well in the playoffs. But I think the Cowboys are way more talented than the Bucks, and I think uh, they're going to take this one. So yeah, and then I have the Giants actually beating the Vikings. Vikings were a team that thrived off one score victories, and I would think that's not sustainable, especially in the playoffs. I think it comes back and bite them. They beat the Giants early in the season, like 3 weeks ago, by a game-winning field goal, 61-yarder. So it was a very close game. I think it's gonna be a very close game again, but this time I have the Giants on top. So that means the Cowboys actually get a break and go play the Niners, who I have winning. Well, I guess not a break, because I think the Niners are the best team in the NFC, but they don't play the Eagles. And the Niners, I think, pretty handily beat the Seahawks. Although I think I could see a potential upset here, just based on the fact that it's really hard to beat a team 3 times, and I think the Niners proved that last year with facing the Rams in the NFC Championship. Seahawks do historically, like over the last decade or so, own the Niners, but Niners are so talented. They're the hottest team in the NFL, and I just don't see the Seahawks coming on top of this game. So yeah, that sets up these matchups, and yeah, that's what I got for my wild card.
Yeah, so good predictions there. Moving on to me. In the AFC, first game, Jacksonville and the LA Chargers going to Jacksonville, which is the first time we're going to see the Jags hosting a playoff game since Bortles in 2017, which is always fun to see. But these two teams have already faced each other. It was a 38-10 game in week 3. The Jaguars killed them. However, I think that it's really hard to beat a team twice in a year. And I think that the Chargers will win this game in a very close game by a field goal. This is kind of a battle of two QBs that throw the ball really well and have really good arms. But Los Angeles has the 27th ranked run defense. So it's going to come down to that. I think the Jags should actually run the ball a bit more. But I think it's just consistency. Justin Herbert has a lot more experience than Trevor Lawrence at this point. And I think the Chargers are going to win this game this year. Moving on to the Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. I think this game all comes down to Lamar Jackson. Originally the spread of this game was like +4 for Baltimore, but it's kind of moved up to -8.5 for Cincinnati. So I'm starting to get the vibe that it looks like Lamar's not going to play with that knee. And I mean, that's just pretty bad for the Ravens, as they have Tyler Huntley, and if it's not him, it's the Anthony Brown, the Oregon rookie. So we're going to see, but none of those guys are going to be able to beat the Bengals with a good defense and offense. And that team has been rolling lately. So we'll see. But I got the Bengals winning this probably no matter what, honestly. I do like what you said, though. I think it will be closer than some people think, because the Ravens, I mean, they've been in the playoffs now for a few years. They're an experienced team. And then in the last AFC game here, we have the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills win this one pretty good. Looks like Tua is not going to play, so this is going to be one of those games where you're just going to be like, where were you for the Skylar Thompson playoff game, or Teddy Bridgewater, whoever it is. But funny enough, the last time the Dolphins made the playoffs, they had a backup QB starting with Matt Moore.
I was about to say, this reminds me of when Tannehill went down and Matt Moore had to play playoffs, and I felt bad for the Dolphins. It happened again, man.
Yeah, so this is going to be another game that you're going to remember wild card weekend here, super wild card weekend, which I do like. Even though you can tell there's kind of a drop off in both divisions between the 6 and the 7 seed. So the 7 seed really isn't that necessary, and it sucks for the 2 seeds not getting by. But yeah, I have the Bills winning this as long as they avoid turnovers. Okay, back to the NFC here. We got the Cowboys and the Bucks on Monday night. I think this may be one of the better matchups in the entire thing. With a Bucks team that's heating up a little bit and getting a lot more healthy at the offensive line. Ryan Jensen was looked to come back. I'm not sure if he is playing, and Tristan Wirfs is healthy of his ankle. So that's very interesting. But I like Tampa to win this. I know you said a lot of people are high on this. Maybe it's too mainstream, but I think Tom Brady does win this on Monday night at home, which is very important. And the Cowboys, we saw what they looked like last Sunday. in DC against the Commanders. I mean, Sam Howell pieced them up and Dak threw that pick six. I think the Cowboys team loses once again on Super Wildcard Weekend, just like they did last year at home to San Francisco. Moving on to actually, this is probably the best game, Minnesota versus New York. I think this game is going to be one that's extremely high scoring, as the Vikings defense is the 31st ranked defense in the NFL. Not a very good D this year. And when the Vikings start to lose, they kind of get crushed. However, I like the Vikings to win this because I think their offense explodes. It's kind of a run offense versus a pass offense in this game. And I think Jefferson, after having that horrible week against the Packers in week 17, has a really good week this time against New York, and they win at a field goal at home. They are pretty good at home. So I think Minnesota does win this game. And last but not least, I think the Niners run a clinic on the Seahawks and beat them for the third time in 2022. Or I guess we're in 2023 now. It will be a bit closer. I think it will be like a 13-point game. Seattle will throw a few touchdowns, but I think this Niners run game is too good. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was such a good trade. They're 10-1 since making that trade, and their defense is unreal. I'll talk about their 1 weak link later, but for now, I think the Niners are gonna cruise.
Yeah, agree on the AFC and so we agree on the AFC and not so much on the NFC. So we'll see. All right, divisional round. Chiefs and Chargers. I could see a Chargers upset here just because both games they played this year were really close. Chargers came up short both times, but they were close. And again, hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. But I think the Chiefs, with an extra week of rest, Andy Reid's going to game plan something phenomenal, and they're going to win, I think, by like 7, maybe like 4-ish. Bengals Bills, man, this is a great matchup. We were robbed of it, obviously, due to the tragedy that happened on that field. Glad to see that DeMar Hamlin is doing better now. But that was in store to be a great game, but it doesn't matter because we get it right back in this matchup. And Bengals Bills, I do have the Bills. I think they're playing with a chip on the shoulder right now, especially due to that the tragedy that took place. So I just think this Bills team is almost untouchable right now. I know they have some flaws with their team, but they have one of the best running offenses in the league. Especially with the way that Josh Allen runs it with no fear, gets like 6 yards a carry, I think. And yeah. So that sets up a Kansas City Bills AFC Championship. Now on the NFC, Eagles Giants, kind of boring divisional matchup. Eagles swept the Giants this year, and I think they win again. I don't think the Giants can really touch the Eagles. I think they're kind of owned by them. So I think the Eagles kind of win this one by like 10-ish. Cowboys Niners, we get a rematch of last year playoff. I think the Niners win again. I think Cowboys scrape by the Buccaneers, but then finally exit the playoffs after meeting the Niners. And Niners just continue the hot streak, now making it 12 in a row. Or 13 in a row if they win this. Is that what
It'll
it is?
be 11. They've won 10 in a row right now.
They won 10. Okay, so it'd be 11, 12 if they beat the Cowboys. Okay. So so that sets up a 1-2 matchup on both sides. So that's what I got so far. And then here's Casey's.
Yeah, so in the AFC, I have a kind of a surprise here to start. I have Kansas City losing. We saw them lose to at home to Cincinnati last year. And I think they end up losing to the LA Chargers this year. That's a team that's gonna be a third time playing this year, an AFC matchup where I think Brandon Staley may be a newer coach, younger coach than Andy Reid, and he's gonna be able to make these adjustments and figure out Kansas City and ultimately go into Kansas City. And I think Justin Herbert gets the win. He's been throwing for yards. I've predicted it since the start. I know they lost to the Broncos, and Oliver, you made an interesting point where you think it was bad of Brandon Staley to not bench their starters. But one thing that I thought of was kind of the Packers last year when they benched all their guys in week 18 before they played the Lions, and then they lost to the Niners in their first game in the playoffs. So I don't know. It's a tough situation, but I think the Chargers are going to go in there and just pass for a ton of yards on a Kansas City defense that has shown some signs of inconsistency this year. And I think they lose, and Kansas City is going to have to make some adjustments in the offseason to figure it out, is that would be now 3 years in a row that they lose in the playoffs, which, I mean, still very good seasons. But yeah, that's my hot take. I don't know many. It's a very chalky playoff system this year, but that's my one hot take here. I think LA goes in. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, two underrated, really good receivers. Just go well. And then obviously Austin Eckler, what a year he's had. And they have a really underrated secondary, I think, in LA. Okay, so moving on to a very good matchup. Bengals and Bills. To me, this matchup is similar to that Kansas City Buffalo matchup we saw last year. I mean, this is a top tier matchup of two really high powered offenses. And I think the home team is going to win this one no matter what. I mean, obviously the game didn't happen last time these two played. Rightfully so. We never actually talked about it on the show, but I think it was obviously the right move to cancel that game. But say it weren't, I think Cincinnati would have won that game probably, because they were cruising at the start. Who knows though? Anything could have happened. But I think the home team wins this one. This game would be in Buffalo, and I think Buffalo cruises and wins this one in a shootout, extremely close. Buffalo's offense is just probably the best in the league right now, up there with Kansas City. And I think they get this one done. And they haven't hosted, an AFC championship in the Josh Allen era. So this would be the first time hosting that. And that would be huge for them to not play Kansas City. On the NFC side of the ball, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on Philadelphia Eagles. Tom Brady going to Lincoln Financial Field, which is a brutal place to play in the playoffs. I think Philly just runs the ball all over them, and Jalen Hurts plays that gritty football he always plays and gets the win for Philadelphia here, and ends Tom Brady, maybe his career with Tampa Bay. In the other one, we have Minnesota taking on San Francisco, which I think is a fascinating matchup. I've talked about the weak link of San Francisco, or I mentioned it. What it is, I think, is the cornerback 2 position. I mean, I think that defense is the best in the NFL besides that second corner position. Right now, it's Deommodore Lemonor running that spot for the Niners. It could be Ambry Thomas. It could be Samuel Womack, who's a bit short to be a starting corner in the NFL. No matter what it is, I think Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen will put up some touchdowns, put up some yards, and give this San Francisco a challenge. We've seen San Francisco D struggle in the first possession series of a few games recently. I think they would struggle against Minnesota, and that would be a shootout. And the question for San Francisco would be, which QB do they run all over? I mean, do they stick with a hot hand of Brock Purdy? I mean, Jimmy G, if he's back and he's healthy, he has so much more playoff experience. I mean, last year he made it to the NFC Championship. 2 years before that, he made it to the Super Bowl. Personally, I'm sticking with Brock until he struggles. But I got San Francisco winning this game, just all those weapons they have on offense and the overall consistency we have seen in that defense. But if Brock goes to Lincoln Financial Field, I think he could struggle in the Linky. I mean, that is such a brutal place to play, and I think you may want to start Jimmy in that game. But there we have it for my conference championships. It's going to be the Chargers and the Buffalo Bills and the Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I like that. So AFC side, this game would be played at a neutral site due to the fact that the Bills had one less game played and they could have got the 1 seed. So I think that impacts the game a lot. Kansas City won't get that Arrowhead advantage.
That would make a great game too. Like, where would they play? I assume in a dome somewhere, maybe Houston.
Yeah, they could play at Ford Field. I saw Soldier Field, which isn't a dome, but yeah, I saw a lot of options. I think Indianapolis already declined it. They were like a proposal or something. So I don't know, but I do have the Bills again, really hot team right now, and playing with a chip on their shoulder. Get to play Kansas City. They beat them earlier in the year. I think they do it again, but it's gonna be a phenomenal game, and I'll be very grateful if we get to see another matchup between these two AFC juggernauts. Then on the NFC side, a matchup that I think all Eagles and 49ers fans have wanted all year, as both kind of fan bases have been going back and forth on who's the better team, and I think San Francisco wins this. I just have my questions about the Eagles. I think they're just a little too inconsistent at times, and but my problem with San Francisco is that besides the Chiefs, they haven't really been very battle tested. They have the worst strength of schedule win percentage wise in the whole NFL, and so that scares me a little bit going to, especially with a rookie third string quarterback away in a playoff game. But I just think they're so talented. They have so many weapons. They've obviously the best defense in the NFL. It's not really that close. Bunch of studs. I think Shanahan has made it as easy for Brock Purdy as he possibly can, and that's making the young kid thrive. And so I just think San Francisco is just so good right now. I have them beating the Eagles as like I said, I don't think the Eagles are as good as their record implies. Although I do think they're top 4 team in the NFL. So yeah, that's what I got. I got Bills, Niners, Super Bowl battle of the 2 seeds, but I could also definitely see a Niners Kansas City rematch for sure.
Yeah, I like that pick too, Buffalo winning. I think part of the reason I think Buffalo would beat the Chiefs or I have Chargers just because that cornerback position for the Chiefs, Trent McDuffie, just a rookie, that's a tough spot for a rookie to be playing in the NFL playoffs guarding Stephon Diggs.
He's
But
not
yeah, so we got the Chargers and the Bills, and I have Buffalo taking this one. I mean, I just think that offense is too high powered, and Bills Mafia would be hosting this game in late January. I think that's too hard for LA to go in there and win that game for still a young QB and Justin Herbert and a pretty inexperienced coaching staff and team. So I'm going to take Buffalo there. No question. Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs will haul in a few touchdowns, and the run game stays solid as well. So I think this Bills team gets that win. And then also shout out to Matt Milano, very solid year. Great D line, amazing secondary. This Bills team's very complete, and I think they have one of the most underrated coaches in the game. Also, Sean McDermott. I mean, he proves to be really underrated. No one seems to talk about him that much.
yeah, he's a good.
And then the NFC Championship. I think this would just be a fascinating game. As you said, everyone wants to see this matchup. We had Justin on to do his NFL playoff predictions, or just total regular season predictions. He's an Eagles fan. I'm a Niners fan, and this would be a dream game. Obviously, I think Jimmy G gets it. In 2021, we saw San Francisco go to Philadelphia and get the win. Jimmy was the QB for that game. Obviously, the Eagles are better. They have 2 really good cornerbacks in James Bradbury and Darius Slay. They both have been very good this year, and then not to mention that D line. But I think that star-studded Niners offense ultimately gets it done. And I mean, this Niners team can do it. A very similar team to what we saw of that 2021-2022 Niners team that went into Green Bay, that went into Dallas and won a playoff game. They can go in the Lincoln Financial Field, and Jimmy Garoppolo gets it done for the 49ers. Nothing against Brock, but I just think they would play Jimmy in this game. And I mean, dude, that defense of Warner, Dre Greenlaw, Eric Armstead versus that Nick Sirianni offense would be a great game, great matchup. But I think just that ultimately the offense of the Niners is a bit better when you have Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey. And then you have, in my opinion, one of the best tackles in the game in Trent Williams. So, and Kyle Shanahan is a more experienced and better coach than Nick Sirianni. So
Probably the second best, arguably the second best tackle on the other side with Lane Johnson. So I think
this would be a battle of O-line.
Yeah, and I think Eagles have the best O-line versus the San Francisco has the best defense. So that's gonna be a good matchup.
It's 100% be a dogfight. Just Miles Sanders, Christian McCaffrey, and then the backup running backs getting involved, Elijah Mitchell. I mean, this would be a 100% amazing game.
Yeah. And here's my Super Bowl. I think the Bills defeat the Niners 31-23. It honestly hurts me to say it, just the Niners losing the third Super Bowl in like pretty much a decade. I mean, I know Niners fans are the biggest population of our viewers, so I'm sorry. I just think this Bills team I think they're the best team in the NFL, but I think the Niners are the third best team in the NFL. But so I think this will be an awesome matchup. Again, like one possession game. I have, but I just like the Bills running attack versus the Niners, but I think Fred Warner could definitely counter that. Along with Dre Greenlaw, of course. But again, Josh Allen throwing to Stephon Diggs with that big arm over kind of a weak, like you said, the one weakness in San Francisco's game is kind of that secondary. But again, I think it's gonna be a good offensive game. Matt Milano flying around. I think, yeah. So this is what I got, but definitely can see the Niners winning this too. See what you got. You got the other way around.
Yeah, I think this would 100% be the Super Bowl of the decade, maybe an amazing Super Bowl. Great color combo in Arizona in February. What a game this would be. But, we've seen the Niners and the Bills face each other. We only get to see it once every 4 years due to the fact that they're not in the same conference. However, we saw it last year, or 2020.
Yeah, who won that 2020 in the COVID year?
Bills won easily. They crushed us. We could not guard them.
That good that year,
It
yeah.
was in Arizona though, which was weird. So because
Oh yeah,
we weren't allowed to play at home. And in 2016, I believe the Niners won in Buffalo, but this would be another time for them to face each other. I think that it would be kind of similar to that Super Bowl, where it was between Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady, picking between Jimmy if he won that game against the Eagles and Brock if he won the game against the Seattle Seahawks, the regular season games in Minnesota. So it would be a decision Kyle Shanahan has to make. I would believe he would go with Jimmy just because he's played in the Super Bowl before, but we will see. I think the Niners get it done, though. I think the Niners pose their will on this Bills defense and just run the ball like crazy, get system plays, no huge long plays. They're all just down the middle, check down throws, run Kyle Shanahan's system to perfection. And the Bills run quick offense and get touchdowns on that weak cornerback position. Charvarius Ward's been solid, but the other quarterback position for the Niners has struggled a little, and we will see. But I think ultimately the Niners win at 37-30 in an amazing Super Bowl that could go either way, really. I mean, we both predicted the exact same Super Bowl with two different teams winning, so we will see. But it's like CO Sports Talk has Bills Niners as our consensus pick for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, don't come back to us when we get it right. So, yeah, that will conclude our video. Obviously, really fun episode to make. Probably, I love these prediction videos a lot. And it's always fun to look back at them to see how you did, because sometimes our predictions aren't too good, but sometimes they're surprisingly spot on. As Casey seems to always predict some AFC team to sneak into the playoffs that no one else thinks.
Yeah, this year the Bengals, this year the Jags, and
Yeah. Next year,
Jets.
the Jets. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Happy New Year, and yeah, see you guys soon. Peace.